Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E, and I have a very special guest on today, all the way from the UK. He's a meditation coach, a Ki Gong, I hope I pronounced that, Ki Gong instructor. Ki Gong instructor. Welcome to the show, Peter Paul Parker.
Thank you very much for the invite.
The pleasure's all mine, man. I love having people on that to talk. That's what I'd love to do here. Just stay here. I've done recorded over 150 episodes.
Amazing.
I just released 118, so I still got a bunch. But I just enjoy talking to people.
Yeah, it's human connection is so important, and we kind of losing that a bit in our world today with technology. And I'm not saying technology is a bad thing, but we should use it to enhance our communication. Like this is amazing. I mean, look at the technology we've got here. I'm speaking to you in America. I'm here in London. You know, it's incredible. So, but we can get lost in the technology, which I find is a bit of a worry for me at the moment. But I think that will change as human beings start to talk with each other again, not from this conditioned position that we seem to find ourselves in, but with a more open, sort of honest position where you're learning stuff, which is what podcasts and what I do is all about, is actually just talking to people and learning what they do and seeing different insights to the world. So if you think about us sitting on top of a mountain, your view of the world would be completely different to mine because of the conditionings that we've been through. So I think it's important for us to share that so that we can see the world in a different way, so we can continually growing and expanding our what I would call consciousness to see things in a more real way, you know, human way, rather than a conditioned way, like a material way, which is what I'm all about, which is what Ki Gong is all about. As you say, it's about energy. Ki means energy and Gong means utilizing well. And meditation is much the same thing, because if you think of your mind as energy, it's always moving, which is, if you look at the quantum world, our mind's always moving, so is the quantum world. Just to focus it on the right thing, i.e. not focus it on an outside influence, focus it on what you're passionate about and what you want to do, is so important for your mental health. Because you look at mental health going absolutely bananas at the moment, with the figures going up and up and up and up, psychosis going up and all that, is because we're being conditioned to focus outside for our passion and what we want to do with our lives. And I think that's a really important conversation.
Yeah, no, that's something a lot of people who make that mistake is they try to find their happiness from outside. They don't look within.
No.
That's one thing I've learned is no one else can make me happy but myself.
Yeah.
That's just it. And if you think otherwise, then you have a lot of lessons to still learn.
Well, it's a big learning curve, and you realise that, say for instance, you have friends, because we've all had friends in our lives where we don't see them anymore, but at that time that friendship seems like it's going to last forever, but it's transient. It's like our emotions, they're transient. I'm not saying to take friendships flippantly or lightly either, but it's not about them making you happy, because you're putting a burden onto them. It's up to you to make yourself happy and then accept where they're at. And then when you accept where they're at, if they're not going to move with you or grow with you, then you can let it go nicely and peacefully. And it's so important to get that under your sort of belt, as it were, to realize that you create your happiness, you create your richness. Actually, if you look at rich as realizing I create happiness, then you are rich. You're really rich in this world. And it's not about money, it's about you being rich, realizing you create the happiness. I think that's a really big important step, and that's what I kind of teach as a meditation coach and also Ki Gong instructor, is to say connect with what I call the energy body, which is I can go into that if you want me to, but it's like your energy body gets like a bit like your physical body. Your physical body, if you don't go in the shower, you're going to get dirty. With your energy body, it's the same thing. If you don't keep refreshing it and refining it and growing and expanding it, it will get dirty as well. So therefore you get stuck in these conditions where you'll be reacting to situations rather than responding. And I find we're all guilty of that, because we react, oh my goodness me, how can I be doing this? Whereas if we think about it and then respond in the proper way, it's not only good for you, it's good for everybody else around you, because you'll be responding in a compassionate way as a human being, which I think is so important, really important.
Sorry about that. That's the
wife. Oh, musical interlude.
No. Oh man, sorry about that. Let me.
That's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, she's. No, let me let her know I'm recording, and then we continue. This is. And we can continue. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No worries. Yeah. So being conditioned with your energy is really important. There's to cleanse it up. Say for instance, people come on my online coaching, and they might just suggest that they're thinking about writing a book because of their experiences. And there's one particular example of a woman who does Reiki. Reiki healing is like energy healing, and she's brilliant at it. She's some of the healings that she's done has been quite remarkable from what she says. I said, well, you should write this down and put it in a book. And she's, oh, I can't do that. I'm not good enough to do that. This is just a personal thing. And now, after the end of the course, she's looking down. She's starting to organize the book, get the book together, because she's passionate about obviously how she's lived her life, and she wants to share this information with other people so that they can actually fall into it and get into this energy healing modality, because it's so important. And there's so many people who are sort of speaking about it in the wrong way. I feel in the respect that people listen to you talking about energy and they say, oh goodness me, what's that all about? Some new age sort of fad or something like that. But if you can get that energy creates matter, so energy actually creates matter. And I'm into sound healing as well, which is where you realize that sound actually creates form. So in university studies, you can see them beaming two frequencies onto a plate of sand, and the sand not only lifts up, but it starts to form in balls, and it forms solar systems. So these two frequencies are actually forming a solar system. And then you realize everything comes from a primal sound, and then anything else that forms around it is adaptations of that primal sound. So you have frequencies inside your body that can be healed. And when you realize that people have done this already, like the Rife machine, there's a guy who was able to target cancer cells and destroy cancer cells with a certain frequency. And there's another guy who's just done a TED talk. Actually, you can find it quite easily. He's targeted cancer cells by targeting certain frequencies. You find it had to go to like a 3000 hertz frequency to target that cell, and then you had to find the 11th harmonic. I used to be a professional musician. You find that 11th harmonic and you combine those two frequencies together, and he was actually destroying cancer cells, and it was like 60% effective, which I think is amazing. And they haven't taken it on yet because I think somebody's going to lose a lot of money out of that. But secondly, they say it's not effective enough yet, and I find that incredible, because once we break past this dogmatic society that we're living in at the moment, that's trying to hold on to the systems that we live by at the moment, and we break through that, what we've got as a possibility as human beings living on this planet together is absolutely phenomenal, and our knowledge and understanding of that would be mind-blowing for all of us. Mind-blowing. Me, I research into this every day, and I try and find the really rock solid science to actually say that this is true and this is what's happening. This is what I'm kind of really passionate about. And I used to be dogmatic when they call it the chakra system, and I used to think, oh no, not another new age person talking about the chakra system until I started to work with it with sound healing. And I started to use tuning forks over what they would call where the chakra was. And when I realized differences in tonalities going over the chakras with these tuning forks, I went, wow. And then I spoke to the person who I was doing the client who I was doing the treatment for, and they were saying that they had a problem, say, for instance, with their solar plexus chakra, which is all to do with willpower and your sense of self, as it were. And they were saying, yeah, I've been trying to do this, but I just haven't been able to get myself around to doing it. And it was their solar plexus their energy of their solar plexus being blocked, so that willpower wasn't pushing them out far enough. Whereas other people with a strong solar plexus, like yourself, you say, well, I'm going to do, I've been put on this furlough. I'm going to go and do a podcast. That's goodwill. That's a really good solar plexus doing what it should do when you need to move yourself into this position. So I've found the whole world of energy absolutely phenomenal, which is why I kind of name myself as a meditation coach, and I definitely am a Ki Gong instructor. But it's a bit deeper than that, because we're trying to find in this time, I think, who and what we are, and finding the I in I am. And I've been stuck in my mind for many years by trying to unravel this picture that we live in and the society that we live in. And I realized that a lot of it is controlling us to stop us asking these questions. I'm not knocking religions, but they're putting us into a certain box. And then I'm not knocking the society that we live in.
You ain't got to knock religion. You ain't got to knock religion. I'll knock it for you. I'm not a religious person. I am a spiritual person.
Okay.
Me personally, I feel religion is used to control the masses. That's how I feel.
It is, but in the actual essence of it is true. The actual essence of it is true. It's the fundamentals of spirituality. If you look at like the Gnostics, you ever heard of the Gnostics? The Gnostics came before the Christians. The Gnostics were they were wonderful people, like the Essenes and the Nazarenes back in Jesus's time, and even back before then, they were just called the Gnostics. And they had this idea of like the spark inside of you that you can connect with, and you have a direct connection with your spirituality or God or whatever you want to call it, same as the Native American Indians. And then the Roman Empire came along and twisted all of that and turned it into Christianity. So Christianity has like the beginnings of the Gnosticism. But if you look at Christianity now today, it is completely controlling. I was raised as a Catholic, and it was like, oh my goodness me, you know, why are these people like this? And they're not even looking like they're following the teachings of Jesus, which is to be a good person with integrity, diligence, reliability, responsibility, and they're all acting like they're not like that. And that's when I put my hand up in religious studies and questioned what they were doing compared to the teachings that they were teaching me. And I got thrown out of the class because it was like, hey, come on, you know, you can't question us. We are the authority. That actually goes all the way back in our history to Akhenaten as an Egyptian pharaoh. And he wanted the people to have a direct connection with their spirituality or energy or God. And it was the high priest class. It sounds familiar in today's society. It was the high priest class who didn't want the people to have that because they couldn't control them and they couldn't manipulate them for money, power, whatever they wanted from them. And that's what sort of has come through in our world today. It's quite a mess of people trying to impose their will onto you. And personally, I think nobody should do that to any other human being. I think we should all be empowered to actually make our own individual choices. And if we're living in a good community, which is what I try to put across as learning Ki Gong, it's not just about learning about yourself, it's learning about your interactions with other people. Once you start to build that good community, you will naturally go towards egalitarianism, which is there's no rulers, but if somebody's good at organizing something, they'll go and organize it, or someone's good at that, they'll go and do that. And you're actually working in tandem together, which is how nature actually works. And it's human beings who've jumped out of that natural way of being with each other that I find absolutely fascinating, what I keep looking into. And there is always somebody tweaking it in the background for their own interests. And that's where we're at the moment with human beings. And we're seeing this being played out in our world today. And we're seeing the expose of that as well coming out, which I find fascinating because it's making more people look into spirituality or a deeper sense of what they are. Because if you look at now the atheists, they're calling themselves mystical atheists. I don't know if you've seen that, but in this country they're calling themselves mystical atheists. I mean, I don't know how you can be a mystical atheist if you believe that there's something past the physical realm, and still not believe that there's a higher being, higher being that's created all of this. Elon Musk said it really well. I think he probably nicked it from somebody else, which is what he does. He said if it was like a hurricane flew over a junkyard and then suddenly created a bomber, a World War II bomber over the other side, he said that's how much possibility, that's what the odds are we develop from random. We're like a random species. I think when I look into the nature of our reality, both through my Ki Gong practice, sound healing, meditation, coaching people, we are absolutely phenomenal beings, and we've got so much more potential than we realize with psychic abilities, clairvoyance, clairsentience. That's all being sort of pushed away from us because when we're 6, 7 years of age, we're just starting to come out of the theta mode as children. And at that point, we're being told, no, don't use your imagination. No, don't do this. No, don't do that. And then they're trying to get you into schools as quickly as possible so they can start programming you to come into a society where they want you to sit and live by these certain rules. Then they give you a lifespan of up to 60, 65, 70 that you work to. Then you die 5 years into retirement. That's kind of the conditioned outlook we've been given in this world. And I think that is absolutely laughable because in our genes, we can live to about 120 years just as a material being. But when you use your energy and realize your energy can be used to self-regulate and self-heal your body, which I've done myself, and I've seen so many other great speakers actually talk about their experiences with that, you suddenly go into a different ballpark of where your possibilities are as a human being. But you need to get rid of that conditioning, and getting rid of that conditioning is tough. Really, really tough, but you can do it. Some people find it easier than others, and we do have a roadmap inside of us to help us work out where these problems are, and they call it the chakra system in India. In my practice with the Ki Gong, which is Korean, we call it the danjons, which they call it the dantians in Chinese. So it's like an Eastern practice which comes from the Tao philosophy, which I really love because it gives you that feeling of everything has a balance and everything has its opposites, which is I find amazing. So working on the 3 danjons has really helped me open up my whole body. When I first started with the practice, I used to be a rock musician, and I loved it because it was just parties all the time. I was drunk all the time. It was like really incredible 10 years of life. But I'd had a really traumatic childhood before that. And my parents died very young. I was sent off to boarding school. As I say, it was a very strict Catholic boarding school. And I realized they were trying to condition me in that school. So I kept pushing back. Even though it was looked upon as, I think, one of the top 10 schools in England at that time, I still rejected all the garbage that they were telling me, and took in the good stuff like the biology and the chemistry and some of the history, because some of the history I think is lies as well. And that gave me good stead to become a musician. I was a salesman before that, and I had to change my mindset, thinking I'm not happy doing this, really not happy. I was making good money. I had a mortgage and all that business, and I thought I'm not happy with this. So every time I feel like I'm not happy, I usually make a big leap and change something. So I just chucked it all away and became a musician with no plan, I must say. I thought I can do this. I'm a natural bass player, so I went to bass college there and then started practicing my bass guitar 8 hours a day, and managed to end up in the who's book of popular music. So I released albums. Well, I was playing bass on people's albums and getting on TV and doing stadium gigs and things like that. So that was brilliant, and that was just a mindset change because I was stuck in this. What do I do? I'm traumatized, and then I found music, and I was really found it like a massive meditation for me because I got to a level of playing that was high, really high, and I managed to get some really fantastic, I mean, phenomenal musicians on stage I used to play with. And it was the improvised moments when we were playing around the music that I found was like an enormous meditation for me. It was almost like a trance I was in, and it wasn't the drink or the drugs either. It was almost like a trance I was in. So this is amazing. And I realized that at that point that was an enormous meditation, because you're right there in that moment as it unfolds bit by bit. It was just incredible. So that was like a healing thing for me. It was like a healing. But it wasn't actually getting rid of the trauma. It wasn't till I lost my career in music and went into Ki Gong, started training with Ki Gong. I realized that I was still traumatized and still very stressed and anxious, but the stress and the anxiety went very quickly, because I started to connect more with my body, started to connect more with my breathing, connect more with everything about me, and realized that I was really angry about how the state of the world was in, because when I was in music, I was in like a little cocoon, a little bubble that was keeping me away from all the rubbish that was happening in the world. And I thought, I came out and I started watching the news again, and bad news, bad thing to do. Just watch the news is bad. And I didn't realize that at the time. I was going, what is this mess? What is this mess? And luckily I found Ki Gong at that time and started to do my deep breathing, do my focusing on the body. And then the stress and the anxiety started to disappear quite quickly. And then after a while, I was asked to go and teach in an elderly community centre. And I had nothing in common with elderly people at that time. So I said, yes, I'll go and do it. And I realized really quickly that the elderly people, even though it was like a mind, body, spirit, I would say, sort of practice that I teach, they were getting it really quickly. And they were getting it within a few weeks, and they were changing. And from a room of about 6 people, it ended up to be a room of about 25. I think the biggest I had was like 35 people in that room. And you could see them turning around their arthritis, and you could see them turning around their other ailments in their shoulders, and you could see them becoming more brighter, because they felt like they were chucked on the scrap heap as elderly people. And I keep saying, you've got all this wisdom in your life, and you've been through all these different experiences. Why don't you share that with your grandchildren? And they do now. They do. They've started to communicate with the grandchildren, which is what I feel human beings should be doing, is passing on knowledge and wisdom to make life not cosseted or protected to the youth, but so that they can see, okay, I'm not going to do that because of this, but I'm going to give it a go if I want to actually learn for myself, which is what I did. Because when I decided to become a musician, all my family going, no, don't do that. Don't do that. There's no money in music. There's nothing in there for you. You're not going to, because as I say, I went to a very good school. So they were really looking at me going, why has he decided to do that? He's going from a good sales job into music. Why is he doing that? It's because it was my passion. And yeah, there was times when it was tough, and there was times when it was amazing. And I don't regret a minute of that. Not even the time when I think I lived in my car for about 3 days, which was okay. I didn't mind it, because I was a gigging musician, and I ended up living in a mansion for like 5 years, during that period, and it was just wonderful experience. So I jumped in with that. But the Ki Gong has really opened my mind up to all these different possibilities I was talking about earlier, which is like the vibration and the sound, and how you can transform yourself if you want to do it, because nobody else can do it. Like you say, nobody else can change you. Nobody else can make you do something, and they shouldn't be, as far as I'm concerned, which is why I have a big problem with government, especially big government, because they seem to be wanting to control every aspect of our life at the moment. And I think that's absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. It's because we've acquiesced ourselves into this position. We haven't done anything about it. But what I'm pleased to see is that's changing. We were talking before about people actually finding their passion, and that's changing now, because people are actually starting to communicate with each other, which is great. People are actually starting to become more open-minded to all these different concepts, and people are starting to grow because of that. And I feel when I look at the studies I do with the Vedic texts, which are the ancient texts from India and the Indus Valley, we're in this position, and they predicted this position that we'd be in 5,000-6,000 years ago. They said that your governments are going to fail you, that your corporations or your big business are going to fail you, your religions are going to fail you, everything's going to fail you, and you're going to suddenly start to find yourself and what you are, who you are, why you're here, and then start to express that. So it was all written in the Vedic text, and I study that with friends, and we sit around and we talk about what it says, and then how we can relate it to the life today. And my goodness me, is it so that prediction of where they said we were going to be is so close to where we're at. It's even, I would say it was even like a blueprint to where we're at now. And that's what's blown my mind, because this is actually what they call the Kali Yuga. I'm actually moving into what they call a golden age, where as human beings we'll be free from all of this garbage, free from all the government repression, free from the religious controls and constraints, where human beings will be able to express themselves, but in a proper manner, not being free, i.e. you want to go and do whatever you want and kill whoever you want and do what, just be. That's not really freedom. That's just being irresponsible. Freedom is responsibility, and I think that's where we're moving to as a species now, as a human race, which I think is phenomenal. So it is exciting time to be alive, where you can create what you want, and it doesn't matter about the numbers or the amount of people that you see. It's actually about the quality of the connections that you have.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I made some great connections with people. Actually, these past few months, the people I've been interviewing have been amazing, and a lot of them have to do, and it's the energy that I put out there. It's what I put out there that I'm attracting the people that I'm attracting that want to be on my show, that are coming on my show and are able to discuss about energy. And like my last guest that I just interviewed last week, she was awesome. She's a Reiki teacher. She's a Reiki master. Yeah. And we just spoke about vibrations and how the energy that I'm putting out there, I'm just attracting some amazing guests, some guests that are here to spread a positive message, to show the people that, listen, wake up. There's other things out there than working the 9 to 5 and killing yourself to survive. There's more to it than to listening to the big businesses and big government and listen to what they're telling us to do. No, we have so much potential within us. We have so much that we're capable of, but they have us programmed thinking that, oh no, we're insignificant, that we're not great enough to create the things that we're capable of creating.
Most definitely, and that is when you start to wake up to that, you realize, goodness me, this is infinite possibility you've got in front of you, and it's the fear, false evidence appearing real. And you take, for instance, any of the scenarios that we've had recently, it was what really got me and woke me up about the medical tyranny was HIV. I had a gay friend, he's dead now, but he came back from Sri Lanka. I think it was around the 1980s, wasn't it, when Dr. Peter Duesberg was speaking out and saying the reason many homosexuals are dying on the West Coast is because they've just suddenly switched the amyl nitrate intake from 1 popper to 5 poppers, and they could take the 5 poppers in one go, and that will just destroy, literally annihilate their immune system. So he's saying the figures are all skewed up, and the offer of what the cure for that was AZT, which was actually a proven failed chemotherapy drug. So the test wasn't very accurate for HIV, and so there was a magazine that was like monitoring it called Curriculum. And so the test, if someone was tested HIV 1 month and they went back and got tested again for HIV, there would be HIV positive 1 month, HIV negative the other month. But by the time they come back to say that to the people, you're HIV negative, we're sorry, we got the test wrong, they'd killed themselves, and it was like, oh my goodness me. And it was a $70 billion a year industry. And I thought, geez. And I was going around trying to tell people about this, and they just thought I'd fallen off from a different planet. It was like, I said, there's something really wrong with this, which actually made me look into the difference between allopathic medicine and homeopathic medicine. That goes all the way back to the Rockefeller Foundation, where they wanted to take over the medical industry, so they made it allopathic, which was treating symptoms rather than the actual cause of the disease. And what I love about Reiki, for instance, or Ki Gong, or any of these natural or holistic healing modalities, you're actually looking out for the symptom. Why is this happening? Why is your blood pressure high? I'll tell you why your blood pressure is high, probably because you're stressed. Why are you stressed? Because you're living in this world and you're taking this, what our ancestors called the Maya, seriously. You're taking it seriously. What these people are telling you, most of it is just an illusion, and they push you into this position to say, here you are, this is where we're at, and this is what we're going to do, and you have to abide by this. Most of it is an illusion, and I learned that from the HIV, and I'm learning that now from this new the restrictions they're putting down on us in the UK. And now there's scientific evidence coming out that the wearing of masks is ludicrous. It's like putting up a metal net, metal sort of fence to try and stop mosquitoes flying through it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And lockdowns is causing more deaths.
It is.
Than the actual virus itself. And the virus is where I'm sort of looking. I've been watching Virus Mania. The people putting a documentary together about it. Apparently, the virus is just a computer-generated thread on a screen. So they don't really know what SARS-CoV-2 is, and they don't know. They haven't isolated it either. So all of this stuff that's coming out, people are suddenly realizing, what are these people doing, and why are they doing it? And it's all part of this change that's coming. It's nothing to be scared of. What it means, we can stand up in our own power and say, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not. You're telling me jump over. I'm not jumping over there. Why am I going to jump over there? You think I'm an idiot?
It's ridiculous. Like over here. Listen, I'm vaccinated. That was my choice. If someone chooses not to get vaccinated, that's their choice. We cannot force them to do something they don't want to. No. We shouldn't regulate them. If they don't want to wear masks, they don't have to wear masks. That's on them. That's on the individual. That's on the individual person's choice. I'm not against anti-vaxxers. I'm not against people who get vaccinated. Listen, that is your life choice. If you choose to get vaccinated, that is your choice. I'm not going to be upset with you if you choose not to get vaccinated. I chose me personally to get vaccinated. That was just me. That was a personal choice. No one told me I had to do it. I chose out of my own free will. Yeah.
And that's another way of controlling us, is polarizing us. So you get this, a lot of it is paid for in the background. We've got a thing over here called Extinction Rebellion. Now, I'm an environmentalist, but these people are not really environmentalists. They pay, the two people who run it have been found to be professional agitators. They're paid to do this. So they come in and they pay them to do this. They get all these young kids to get criminal records for their activities. And you go, well, what is the truth behind it? And the truth behind it is that they've got several layers for you to get to the truth. And that's the problem with our society today. You have to keep unpeeling to get right to the back of it. And even then you don't get the right answers. So it's all confusing, and you've got to make your own choice, and you've got to accept other people's choices as well. I think that's so important, because it's the polarization of us, i.e. you got like the anti-vax people and the pro-vax people. I've seen them arguing in the street, and I go, what are you arguing about? What's the matter with you? And it's like pro-choice, like you say, it's pro-choice if I choose to do it.
The same thing with Republicans and Democrats here. It's like, dude, why are you arguing? Don't y'all realize that both parties, they're both making millions of dollars? Like, how do you go into public office? Your constituents is still broke and suffering, but yet you come out multi-millionaires.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
Like, and it's not just one, it's both parties. It's not just one, it's both parties. And people fail to realize that the reason they do this is to control us. They have us fighting each other when we need to be fighting the system.
Yeah. And I see how this is all going to play out, is that people will consciously get the system changed by just not acquiescing to it anymore and saying this is ridiculous. And I think there's a massive divide happening, probably in America as well as here, where people are just hanging on to these belief systems because they're scared, and they're just I call it the finger waggers. They're just wagging their finger at you. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. You should. And you want to say to them, well, you're not doing that. So why are you telling me to do it? And I am doing it actually. So why are you wagging your finger at me? It's like this. I call it illiberalism. I'm a pretty liberal guy. I let people be who they want to be and do what they want to do. But I call these people illiberal because they suddenly turn from being classed as being a liberal person as being like an authoritarian. Because I was what you'd call, I was raised as like a Republican, and I would sway back from Democrat to Republican to Democrat to Republican. I thought, actually, I agree with virtually all of this, but why isn't there something that's looking after the guy who wants to go and aspire to great heights, and looking after the guy who's just sitting there and just wants to live his life without having to do too much? Why aren't we catering for all of that? You know, it's because they want this divide and this whole crazy system, because they just making money out of it. They make money out of the bubbles, and they make money out of the falls, and we're in the victim of this roller coaster ride we call life, that people are making billions and trillions and quadrillions out of it. And it's not about the money anymore. It's about, it feels like it's trying to deprive us of actually having a standard of living, and giving us like what they call vaccine passports now, which is absolutely ludicrous idea. Or you have an app on your phone or a chip in your body that actually you walk around and use for your payment systems and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. What happens when you suddenly turn around and say, I don't want to be part of this system? They just turn your chip off, and what have you got? At least with cash or some sort of barter system or some sort of energetic exchange that you can swap with each other, you've got something. And that's where it's going, I feel. I think the whole exchange of energy, like we're exchanging energy here, needs to be fair. You know, not you give your energy to somebody else and you get nothing back, or you get like a few dollars back just for work, like you say, working your backside off, just trying to get your rent together. That's not living. That's living like a slave. And I always looked at this world and thought, am I the only one thinking this? Now I'm seeing so many more people saying, yeah, I don't want this either. You know, what are we doing with our life and our time? So things are really changing rapidly. And when you see things in history, you think, well, that was a rapid change. I think we're going through one of these remarkable changes right now, whereas people, you don't see it while you're in it, but when you look back at it, and when they look back at this at a period of time, this is a rapid change we're going through, and a rapid consciousness rising change. Because like yourself, you're saying, well, you know, why am I sitting around doing nothing? I could do this podcast. So many people could do podcasts. So many people have got something to say, as I said at the beginning of this conversation.
Listen, at the beginning of the pandemic, there was probably like 750,000 podcasts. There are over 2 million something podcasts now.
Wow.
Yeah.
People are talking.
People are talking. But the thing is, the average lifespan of a podcast is between 7 to 10 episodes.
Okay.
That's the average lifespan of a podcast. So there might be 2 million of them, but a lot of them stop after 10 episodes. They don't see the numbers that they want to see, and they just stop, not knowing that it's right there. That limit where you're supposed to just jump and go crazy, it's right there. Like they'll scratch and scratch and scratch, and right before they get to the surface, they stop.
Yeah.
And you just can't. You have to continue to do this. And if this is, I found that this is what I'm passionate about. So the moment I really found that this is what I wanted to do, I started investing in myself. I bought a Rodecaster Pro, which is the holy grail for podcasters. I got me a better mic. I got me a better desktop. I invested in myself because I felt this is what I truly wanted to do. This is something I'm free. Like my voice, like me being able to start the podcast and start recording, it opened up something inside of me that has just been afraid. Like I've been afraid to do this. I've made excuses to why I shouldn't do it. I sound horrible. Who would want to listen? Who would want to be on my show? Why would I want to do it? And the moment I said, you know what? That's just me making excuses. That's just my mind holding me back. because of the programming that I have. The programming that I've been programmed to be like, listen, you're not going to be successful. You're going to be, you're not going to be good. No, I'm going to be good. I'm going to continue to improve. I'm going to continue to have some great guests on. Yeah. And that's what it is. If you go from my first few episodes to now, there's a big difference. And my nephew was like, "Oh, we shouldn't release anything until we're good and we're perfect." I'm like, no. I need people to see me beginning my journey. I need them to realize, wow, he sucked when he started. Like it wasn't that, like, my first few episodes are probably like 5-10 minutes each.
Oh, wow.
And then as I got more comfortable behind the mic and I started attracting more guests and people really actually wanted to be on my show. Because when I first started, I would reach out to people and their first question is, how many listeners do you have?
Oh, yeah.
How many followers do you have? Oh, no, I can't be on your show. And that's how it went. But I just kept grinding and building, and I made some connections, and I made some great met some people that helped bring people onto my guest. And then once that started going on, I started getting messages from people like, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. I would love to share a message with your audience." I'll say, "Okay, cool." And that's how it started. And now it's to the point where I'm getting reached out. I'm going out and getting a lot of guests that they're coming on to the show because they'll listen and like, "Oh, cool, yeah, I would love to be on the show." But then I'm also getting people sending me messages, at least 2-3 a week. "Hey, I want to be on your show. I was listening to it. I think I got something for your audience." And to me, that's awesome. That's like, wow, my hard work is paying off. People are realizing that I'm doing something. People are out there like, "Oh, this guy got something good. Let me go on his show and share what I have to share." And that's what I want. I want people to come here and share their message, share their story. Because there's so much negativity out there that I just want to do nothing but positive stuff. I want to have positive content out there to combat this negative stuff. Because people need to hear these things. People need to realize they're not alone out there. They're not the only ones that think the way we think.
Yeah. We're swimming in negativity, like you're saying about the numbers. When I first started my YouTube channel, I was obsessed with numbers. So I was still a musician at that point. Thinking, "Oh my God, I'm not popular. And when I was on Spotify and iTunes, "Oh my God, it's not selling." And then when I decided to share my knowledge about Ki Gong and meditation and energy, I didn't care about any of that. I just thought, this looks good. I want to speak to this guy. I want to share what I've got to say. And it's a different kettle of fish altogether. It's a different way of approaching it, which is a more energetic way. And that energy, when it's ready, will take you to where you need to get to. And if you want it to be successful and you've got a strong enough and a good enough message, you can get anywhere with it. You can get anywhere with it, but you got to allow the energy to flow. And these constraints of the world that I see, especially coming out of the music business, is that you're looking at celebrities and you go, "Oh my goodness me, look at them. How could I ever be like them?" And that will stop you. That negative energy will stop you actually doing something for yourself because you're worried, "Oh, well, look, I sang a song, I've got 5 listens, and Britney Spears sang a song, she got 20 million listens." You know,
well, she has a bigger following.
So what?
It's funny. You're absolutely right. Because people they go into podcasts, "Oh, I'm gonna be the next Joe Rogan." Joe Rogan he worked hard to where he's at. He's established his following, but he also had a little. He was an actor. He did UFC, so he had a built-in audience already. It just expanded with the more consistent he was. But that it took work. It took him years for him to be the #1 podcaster in the world. Yeah. It wasn't done overnight. This does not happen overnight. Nah. But people who come in and they assume like, "Oh, I need to have 10,000 downloads in my first week." It might happen. You might find the right niche and people might listen to. But I'm so proud of my over 5,000 downloads, and I've been doing this for a year. I didn't even think I would get that many downloads when I first started. Yeah. Like if I was happy when I saw that 100 people downloaded my episodes, I was like, "Oh man, that's awesome. That's great."
Yeah, that's
so
good.
To me, the numbers doesn't matter. It's just the fact that I'm here having fun, being able to spread a positive message and being able to learn. I learn a lot. I learn a lot from people like you, where there's certain things that I might apply. And that's what's key. Not everything is for everyone. Take what is the same thing within books. Take what applies to you and put it into and apply it into your life. Not everything in the books are meant for you. There's certain things that are meant for you that you go, that sounds good. Let me apply that. And well, everything in my podcast is not for everyone.
No.
But there might be a nugget in here that you might be like, I like that. I might just try that. And that's all it is. And if I could reach, like I say this all the time, if I reach one person and they can get something out of what I've done, I'm good.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that, though. I was talking about the Gnostics earlier, and the Gnostics used to call the early Christians the people of the book. And the reason they call them the people of the book is because they weren't reading and discerning the information like you were saying. Oh, that bit's for me, that bit isn't for me. They would literally quote the book. So therefore, they were so conditioned on the book, which is the Bible. And that's why they were called the people of the book, because they weren't being able to interact with other people without them consulting their book. Now, that's not really being human, that's being conditioned. And they talk about that in the Vedas, the conditioned soul, i.e. your soul is so conditioned that you don't actually live your passionate life. And you come out of the mode of ignorance into passion, into goodness, and then even further than that, even higher vibrations than that. So we're all on each our own individual journey. And what seems to be pushing us into the mode of ignorance is our society today. We're just completely ignorant of what is possible, and it's the numbers and the condition that we're trained to look at the numbers and saying that's not successful, or it's not money. It used to be the controlling influence, now it's numbers, it seems like, on the internet. And it's so what if you like when I first started up my Ki Gong practice and one person came into the class, when I first started off, that was a success. Yes, someone turned up to learn what I've got to teach them, and then that grew and grew and grew. And you're right, it's just personal perseverance going, and then you learn. Why I see Ki Gong instructors fail, because I'll say to them, why do you think you only got one person in your class? And you've been going 6 months. Why did only one turn up, and the rest didn't tell you why they didn't turn up? Why is that? And then I leave them at that to think about that, because some people will turn around and go, I don't know why, because I just run a fabulous class. I think, well, that's the wrong attitude, because you're always growing. You can always make it better. You can always make it better experience for the person who's coming to you. Yep. And that's where it works. That's how it all works, is we're always growing. You never sit and rest on your laurels or sit and rest on your energy. It's always growing and expanding. And that's what to be or live a natural life is. People say go back to nature. We are nature. We are nature. And once we go back to our natural position of growing, expanding, experiencing, communicating, talking, sharing, listening, it's wonderful. And when we contract back into this cortisol-ridden body that our controlling systems wants us to be in, that's when we grab onto these things and say, well, this is it, and that will hold you into that position. And it's scientifically proven now, when you talk about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous state, when they put us into so much fear, we go into this sympathetic nervous state, i.e. the cortisol starts going through the muscles, and you start to become addicted to this stress, which is why people are always so busy. And you ask them what they're so busy doing, they don't know, but they're just, I'm just busy, I'm busy, they're stressed, What do you? I've got to get there. Where are you going? I don't know, but I've got to get there. And then when you start to get into the parasympathetic nervous state, where you do your breathing and your Ki Gong exercises, or you do something that you're passionate about, everything slows down, becomes a lot more calmer, and you look at things in a real perspective, going, okay, I only got one person last week. This week I've got 3, and then let's hopefully we get 5 next week. If not, we'll work on a little bit more on the class to try and get people to sort of talk about what we're doing, and that'll grow. And sure enough, I think the biggest class that I took as a Ki Gong instructor was about 45 people, which was enormous amount of people in a room. But it was wonderful. And it wasn't because I was thinking, oh, I've got to get 45 people in the room. It's because I'm thinking, how can I make this better? How can I make this better? How can I make this better? How can I grow? How can I communicate better? What have I got to learn to share with people that can make this better for them? And it's that attitude of service to others rather than service to self, I think, is so important, because you're serving other people. And if they do it in the Tao philosophy, they say, just imagine walking into a room and everybody's serving themselves. Who's serving you? Nobody. But if you walk into a room where everybody's serving each other, you've got everybody serving you and you're serving everybody else. So it becomes that egalitarian sort of system again, where everybody's helping each other to get where they need to get to. And that's how nature has worked. It's not this Darwinian dog-eat-dog survival of the strongest. There's elements of that. It's the ones who can cooperate and collaborate with each other are the species that tend to do the best, and the species that tend to survive, not the ones who are the strongest and who can fight the best. And once we get out of this conditioning where we're said, like the elites of this world are much more superior to us because they've got all the billions and trillions and quadrillions in the bank. No, they've got, like, this is the third, fourth, fifth generation they've inherited that, and they did it on corruption, gangsterism, and like stealing from people and stealing assets from other countries. I could go on for ages about that. I've done a lot of research into that, but it's wrong, and we've set these people in these positions that is wrong, and they know that now. And they're panicking, which is what this pandemic is all about, I think, and this whole change that's happening is there's a consciousness change to see all of this and go, whoa, this is wrong. And people who are doing that are actually part of the solution. I think when you become self-realized that you can actually do whatever you want with your passion, that's part of the solution. So that's all you need to do. You don't have to go and lobby your government or your officials or your senator or anything like that. Focus on yourself and change yourself and become self-realized, what you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it. And that will change the world without anybody having to do any sort of revolutionary act or rebellious act. And it will happen naturally. And I feel that's what's happening at the moment, is there's a natural change happening within our species. And I think it's a wonderful time to be on this planet, because you're going to, especially the children coming up, are going to see a completely different world to what it is now, because we've got all the technology that we need. We've got all the resources that we need, even though they say that we haven't. And we've got the intelligence to actually cope with it. And it's just the change in consciousness that needs to follow. And once that follows, here we go. Who knows what's around the corner? It's good stuff.
Yes. So, Peter, man, I appreciate you being on. But now is the time for you to plug everything and let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, well, my name is Peter Paul Parker. You can go to peterpaulparker.com if you're interested in working with me as a meditation. I'm a transformational guide. So I help with people who need to break, either having trouble with their mindset and things like that, and breaking out of that. I've got a method that I use to break myself free from all this conditioning that I've had, and it's really an amazing course. And it's one-to-one with me. There's a lot of one-to-one work. I'm also on peterpaulparker.co.uk, which goes to my Bright Beings Academy, which is where I teach Ki Gong. We do group calls there as well, and it's really cheap at the moment. So if you want to get into Ki Gong, it's cheap. You just go down to the bottom of the Bright Beings Academy page, and you'll see it's something like $12 a month or something like that, and you'll get 2 classes a week plus group calls and all sorts of online meditation and breathing exercises and things like that. So it's really, I'm trying to make it as cheap as possible, to also, because I've got to pay bills as well. But that one, I'm trying to just get people into Ki Gong so that they can share it with their families. So that's peterpaulparker.co.uk. So they're the 2 major websites that I have. One is a coaching, one is online Ki Gong and meditation. So, and also my YouTube channel, it's all free on there. So you've got Ki Gong classes on there. You've got sound healing videos, which aren't great quality because it's very difficult to get that vibe on microphone into from a live room. But I've done the best I can with my musical knowledge to try and get you to feel that. So the Peter Paul Parker is just on the YouTube, so you can find me on there. And I put lots of things up that are deconditioning, I would say, little short videos that are deconditioning, and they talk about things like dark night of the soul and things like that, which people think, oh my goodness me, that's like a Christian thing, but it's not. It's actually a very spiritual thing. So each time you go through a dark night of the soul, you're actually cleansing yourself. So that's an important thing. So I do lots of free stuff I've got on the internet, like YouTube, and I'm on Facebook, which I try not to go on too much because I find it. There's loads of women on there saying, "Do you want sex?" and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness, why would I want to have sex with you, for goodness sake?" And it's like. But I am on Facebook as well, so you can find me there. But yeah, peterpaulparker.com, peterpaulparker.co.uk. And if you Google Peter Paul Parker, you'll find lots of articles and videos and things like that I've been involved with over the years. So I'm quite well sort of shown on the internet, as it were. So quite a good web presence.
All right. Now, well, hold on a second before we'll speak a little bit afterwards, but I'm gonna give my shout outs and then we'll talk. All right, so big shout outs to my Real Wise family, Poppy J, Brandy J, love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina, love you, baby, appreciate everything you do for me. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless you, be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at @wise_b_blunt, Instagram at @wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.